Hello, BookTube. Well, it's a bleak and barren Sunday, but once again, I have a small shipment of books that we can go through that came yesterday, and I just didn't open. Uh, I was melancholy at the prospect of Father's Day, um, and it turned out I was advisedly so because I've been getting cards and emails from people um, that I haven't really been in touch with, joshingly wishing me a happy Father's Day and showing pictures of two little dogs when I haven't been able to inform them that one of those dogs isn't here anymore, and it's a reminder to me that of all the young fathers that I know currently in my life. I know four young men who are fathers, four men who I knew as boys who are now fathers of children of their own, and it's been a reminder of the huge admiration that I have for the gigantic amount of bravery that it takes to be a father, a parent at all, to be a parent and launch this completely vulnerable thing into the world and watch it grow for years and years and years. All the decisions, all the protectiveness, all the filtering of what they're exposed to and what they're not, and trying to keep them on the right path the whole time. It's just a staggering undertaking. I don't have the courage for it. These cards and emails that I've been getting are reminders to me of the only thing uh, that pet owners do that's braver than parents, and that's that. In addition to everything else, uh, we have to watch them grow old and get sick and die, which parents don't usually have to do, and that's been on my mind, and it's disinclined me to get in front of a camera, and two people, two very wise women, uh, gently but firmly pointed out to me that it's when I'm feeling like that I should get in front of a camera, because as one of them put it, it always perks you up to talk to your lame ass booktube friends, and that's absolutely true. Uh, I don't know why that is. I don't. I haven't met any of you face to face, most of you, and I probably never will. Uh, One of those two wise women says it's a combination of the support and love they've given to you, and also the fact that you're a ham. What can I say? I have bare knuckle friends, but one way or another, I'm taking their advice. So I will make this video, and then if I can, I'll make another one, or maybe more than one today, because you've been dealing with one video from Steve a day in your feed, and that's less than the USDA recommends, right? So I thought we'd go through this mail haul this time around, and it's cardboard. I'm wearing a cardboard belt. it's entirely cardboard. There are no paper envelopes. It's all cardboard, ending with a box. So I don't know what that portends. No idea what it means. We'll start with this one. This is the only one that isn't brown. Okay, this is from Tor. That's great. Science fiction and fantasy. Comes out in next week. I don't know it at all. I didn't request it. It's Perilous Prophecy by Leanna Renee Haber, and the subtitle is A Strangely Beautiful Novel. I'm assuming that's not the author's hubris. I'm assuming that's the title of the series. I can almost uncategorically guarantee it will not be Strangely Beautiful, but I could be wrong. You never know. So what have we got here? Cairo in the 1860s is a bustling metropolis where people from all walks of life mix and mingle. I remember it well. Deb and I took a honeymoon there in the 1850s. Close enough. Mostly in complex harmony. When evil ghosts and unquiet spirits stalk the city streets, the guard are summoned. 6 young men and women of different cultures, backgrounds, and faiths, gifted by their goddess with great powers. While others of the guard embrace their duties, their leader, British-born Beatrice, is gripped by doubt. What right has she, a bookish, sheltered 18-year-old, to lead the others into battle? Why isn't dark-eyed, compelling Ibrahim, who is stronger of will than Beatrice, the one in charge? Ghosts maraud through Cairo's streets, heralding a terrible darkness Beatrice and her guard have little time to master their powers. A great battle looms as an ancient prophecy roars towards its final deadly conclusion. Okay, so if this is a strangely beautiful novel, then it's got to be part of a series, which means I automatically wonder how much I've missed. Oh, and yeah, look at that. There you go. Strangely Beautiful was the title of the first book. Or the one before this one. So, okay, I think I got Strangely Beautiful. Now that I see it, I think I remember that I did. So maybe I still have it here. I can reread it. Or maybe Tor would be willing to send a copy. They're usually very good about that. I'll find out. I'll find out. I automatically want to say I'll find out right as soon as this video is over, but of course it's Sunday, so no publicist will be at their desk. But all right, let's move on to cardboard and see what we've got here. Oh, okay. This is the finished copy of a novel that comes out, I think, in July. I think this is a July release. Yes, it comes out in mid-July. It's called Bed-Stuy is Burning. By Brian Platzer. Once known as the largest ghetto in the U.S., notorious for the 1964 race riots and immortalized in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, the Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn of today, is more notable for its headlines in the real estate section. But as overt and systematic racism converges with the steady march of gentrification, the neighborhood again finds itself at the center of a cultural quandary in a gripping, timely, morally nuanced debut novel. Okay. Hours after the fatal police shooting of an unarmed 12-year-old, posters demanding protest appear on the street lamps as additional cops patrol the neighborhood. Throughout one September weekend, hashtag 12 years old 10 shots trends on Twitter. On Monday, when police arrest two turnstile jumpers at Utica Station and begin to stop and frisk late summer heat wave, and begin to stop and frisk other young black men and women, the tension surges above ground. Teenagers are cuffed and dragged out into a late summer heat wave as commuters pause to watch, heckle the police, and photograph the mounting chaos. The chanting begins. 12 years old, 10 shots. Okay, so that's explosive, and the first question that crosses my mind is, who is this author? That's a lot for a debut novel. Who is this author when he's at home? He has an MFA from Johns Hopkins Writing Seminar. Oh no! He has an MFA from Hopkins. Goodness gracious! And a BA from Columbia. Oh God, it's the greatest hits. His writing has appeared in the New Yorker's Shouts and Murmurs, McSweeney's Internet Tendency, as well as in the New York Times, the New Republic, Salon, and elsewhere. He lives with his wife and two young sons in Bed-Stuy. But it shouldn't call itself Bed-Stuy anymore. I've been there. I was there when it was the Wild West, and I was there just a little while ago when it's not the Wild West. It shouldn't call itself Bed-Stuy anymore. It's gentrified out of all recognition to itself. Just like I shouldn't use the term Southie anymore. There is no South Boston anymore. But okay, so this doesn't give me actually, this is a finished copy, so we can take a look at him. And he's a baby. He's a baby. So I don't know if he can do this. I guess that's my underlying question here. Can he pull it off? But then again, I know BookTube's opinion on City on Fire by Garth Risk-Hallberg. I know that BookTube's opinion on that book is a bit divided, but I thought that Garth did a great job. So, and he's a baby too. So you never know. I guarantee you one thing: Brian Platzer did not get $8.5 million for this book. Unless I'm wrong, unless I missed the story, he did not. Even though it will probably be very similar, except it's a third the length. But okay, I have had the advanced copy for some time and haven't got to it. Now that I have it, now that I have a finished copy, I'm going to put it at the front of the list. Unless these are all Habsburg biographies. I shouldn't speak, should I, with unopened packages. All right, so let's do this next book. Oh my goodness, what is this? It's pretty. It's Claire Macmillan's The Necklace. Did I get an advance copy of this? I can't remember if I did. Look, see how that... It's gold tinted. Isn't that nice? I can't remember if I did or not. I also don't remember if this is YA or not. This comes out on July the 4th. A stunning inheritance stirs up old jealousies in The Necklace. Crisp as a gin martini. Fresh as a twist of life. This intoxicating, intelligent novel alternates between past and present to link two generations of Quincy women, a bewitching jazz-age beauty and a young lawyer who inherits a spectacular Indian necklace, along with an even more valuable secret. And Claire Macmillan? Who is Claire Macmillan? She's the author of The Gilded Age. Oh, Gilded Age was good. Oh, good. She grew up in Pasadena and now lives on her husband's family farm outside of Cleveland with her 2 children. She practiced law until 2013 and received her MFA in creative writing from Bennington College. They all have MFAs. I guess it's a profession, right? And like any other profession, you go and get an expensive degree. I remember when that wasn't the case. Of course, you can on one search online, you can easily find riffing essays on the millions of the rumpus about what it means that all of our fiction writers now seem to come armed with 1 or 2 or even 3 writing degrees and tons of seminar work behind them. Does it create a sameness in their work? Does it remove the outlier, the wild and woolly, barefoot boy from the provinces feel of a lot of fiction that used to happen? I don't know exactly where I stand on that. I certainly see the sameness. But mainly I see it in the form of its drawbacks. Characters all sound the same. Plots that don't risk anything. Very little happens. And also, as we've mentioned on this channel many times before, no ending, no conclusion. The writer just sort of natters along, gets to a certain point, and then puts both hands on the cafe table, stands up and says, "Gotta go." And off they go. And the book just sits there. So, these 2, there you go. That's 2 in a row. For all I know, 3 in a row. But these 2 are, these are 2 hardcover, new release, literary fiction that will go on the front tables of your bookstore. They're clearly being pushed for the same audience. And they clearly both have money behind them. And their writers both went to school for what they do. Sunk in a huge amount of money. And presumably during that time were exposed to instruction of some kind or other. So does that show in the work? It's actually not a completely solipsistic question. I actually do like it. I don't particularly like any of the stuff that I've read on it, but that just could be that the right person hasn't come along to write about it for me. But if you go to a doctor's office. If you go to 10 doctors, let's say you're a hypochondriac, I know a few of those, and they shop around for doctors the way you or I would shop around for a Wi-Fi hotspot. And let's say you go to 10 doctors in a row, you see their diplomas on the wall behind them. That creates a background noise, right? It creates a background assumption of uniform instruction. And I wonder, this huge prevalence of MFAs, if that does the same thing. You won't find no one of those 10 doctors will start to feel your skull for the bumps and ridges. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go. When I come to the bottom of that whole workshop story, or get any interesting thoughts on the subject, I'll make sure to make a tedious video about it. All right, so it's another novel, and it's another novel. Another novel that I didn't request. It's The Right Side by Spencer Quinn, who's the author of Dog on It, which was a murder mystery thriller told from the point of view of a dog, of the main character's dog. So Spencer Quinn is, I'm automatically going to his biography now because I want to know how many MFAs he has. He's the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the ongoing Chet and Bernie mystery series, as well as the bestselling Bowser and Birdie series for middle grade readers. Spencer Quinn, a pen name, lives on Cape Cod with his wife and Diana and dogs. keep up with him by visiting spencerquinn.com. Okay. So no mention of an MFA, but I'd be willing to bet. Well, no, actually not, because he's of a certain age. He looks like he's in his late 40s, early 50s, so he might not have an MFA. Might have done it without that. But let's see here. Leanne Hogan went to Afghanistan as a rising star in the military. That's got to be her in the fatigues. And came back a much lesser person mentally and physically. Now missing an eye and with half her face badly scarred, she can barely remember the disastrous desert operation that almost killed her. She is confused, angry, and suspects the fault is hers, even though nobody will come out and say it. Shattered by one last blow, the sudden death of her hospital roommate Marcy, Leanne embarks on a fateful drive across the country, reflecting on her past and seeing no future. Her native land is now unfamiliar, recast in shadow by her one good eye, her damaged psyche, and her weakened body. Arriving in the rain-soaked small town in Washington state that Marcy had called home, she makes a troubling discovery. Marcy's 8-year-old daughter has vanished. When a stray dog, a powerful, dark, unreadable creature, no one's idea of a pet, seems to adopt Leanne, a surprising connection is formed and something shifts inside her. Feeling a sense of duty to find Marcy's daughter, Leanne and her inscrutable canine companion are drawn into danger as dark and menacing as her last Afghan mission. But this time she has a strange, loyal traveler protecting her blind side. And it's called The Right Side. Okay, that does sound kind of good. Doggone it was, of course, you can see this coming a mile away from me. Doggone it was incredibly annoying. On every page, I found every page of it annoying. I kept getting yanked out of the story by the author's completely inept attempts to imagine how a dog would perceive the world. It reminded me of a rule that I used to put forward to people years and years ago. I used to say, if that the only person in the world who's qualified to write about dogs is me. So if you feel like writing about dogs, check and see whether or not you're me. If you're not, then don't. But I stopped doing that because I had a number of people point out to me, especially after it was demonstrated to them on walks and whatnot, that I'm a bit freakish when it comes to dogs, and that other people can certainly give it a try. So, but like for instance, the idea of a dog who's inscrutable, who's unreadable. I don't even know what that means. Any more than when I was a kid. My family and I would be walking up to a used bookstore out in the country somewhere or whatever, and there'd be a sign in the door saying "Beware of dog," and there'd be a dog standing right under the sign just inside the door. And time and time again, my parents would say, "Well, what if the dog's not friendly?" And I would always say, as I was opening the door, "All dogs are friendly." I now know that's not true. I didn't know it at the time, so but this comes with a Q&A from the author. I never knew what real function those serve. I guess maybe just to interest you in the book. I could read the Q&A to see if he has exposure to MFAs, but he strikes me as the type who probably doesn't. Then we'll move on to this thing. This is nice and heavy. These are all going to be finished copies, it seems like. So another thing they have in common with cardboard. Okay, no sooner spoken than disproven. This is not just one book, but two, and they're not finished copies. They're advanced copies. So the first one is Anatomy of a Scandal by Sarah Vaughan. You want to believe your husband. She wants to destroy him. Anatomy of a Scandal. That's what it's going to look like. Sarah Vaughan is a former journalist who lives in Cambridge, England with her family. And we have I have a pub sheet for one, but not the other. Let's see what the publicist has to say. Well, no, the pub. It's not. It's a note from the senior vice president and editor-in-chief of Emily Bestler Books. Emily Bestler. From the opening pages of Sarah Vaughan's Anatomy of a Scandal, I knew I had a brilliant novel in my hands and that I had to be the one who published it stateside. I was completely immersed in it, glued to my sofa as I raced to its conclusion. This is one of the most riveting books I've read in years, and I'm thrilled to be Sarah's American editor. She's crafted a page-turner that begins with a confession. A successful member of Parliament has been having an affair when he admits to his wife right before the secret is about to go public. What happens next is the gripping story of what this revelation does to his marriage and career as allegations of rape surface and we, the readers, are taken back to his days as a young student at Cambridge where he and his wife first met. Okay. All right. Oh, no, it does have a publisher. I could have spared you all that. So this comes out when? Oh, December. Good Lord. And, you know, notes like that by senior publicists or editors or whatnot, I know I'm supposed to feel affection for their enthusiasm, and I do. You definitely don't want an editor who doesn't feel that. But when I read something like that, and I read it all the time, at least 2 or 3 times a week, a note from an editor or a publicist saying the most thrilling novel I've read, and a clearly brilliant novel, my very first thought is uncharitable. My very first thought is, well, how much do you read? Not questioning your judgment, just questioning your experience. If I had a bookstore manager once, eons ago, who read Pat Conroy's The Prince of Tides, and came into work the next day and took a momentary break from issuing stupid, redundant, condescending orders to all of his betters, and instead waxed for 15 minutes at a section meeting about how the book had moved him, about how the last 50 pages there were tears pouring down his face, how it was the most incredible thing he's ever read. And some of the booksellers and I, who were listening to this aria of praise, also had that as our very first reaction. Well, how much do you read? None of us have ever heard you talk about a book before. If this is the only book you've read in the last 10 years, of course you'll think it's amazing. You won't have anything to compare it to. And discreet questioning later on revealed that it was, in fact, the first book he'd read in 10 years. So when I read that, I have to wonder. So let's see, since this video is hideously long anyway, let's taxi driver it, shall we? And in fact, let's not do it page 1. Let's do it right. She leaves the downstairs cloakroom and the photo with those youthful, trusting faces, tries to think calmly as she boils a kettle, and craving certainty and comfort makes another mug of tea. It is just possible that Kate would keep quiet about a connection because of this sinister, shaming reason. She has never once revealed the name of her rapist, and her intense privacy might explain this refusal now. But there's a steeliness, a stubbornness, and a ruthlessness to her friend, as well, as if, and it's a huge if, it was James Whitehouse who had raped her. Then she is perfectly capable of pursuing him for what he did to her that night, perhaps little caring if he's also guilty of this rape. Okay, so on the positive side, that's gripping, and it also shows a really neat willingness, just this one paragraph, I know it's just a small sample, but it shows a neat willingness for the author to turn around and look at her own character, which is good and which a lot of writers don't do. And it has its weaknesses. And let's see here. What are the weaknesses? She does not leave the photo with faces. She leaves the photo with people. She does not boil a kettle. She boils a kettle of tea. The reason doesn't have to be sinister and shaming. It could be 2 adjectives that don't start with the same letter. Same thing as steeliness and stubbornness. Her friend could have 2 qualities that don't start with the same letter. The fact that they do, and the fact that it happens twice in one paragraph, leads me to suspect that maybe this is a lazy writer. Someone who by page 221 is no longer being closely edited. And there's a bit of a problem with emphases in the last third of the paragraph with who's raping who and when and where and why. And maybe that's probably context. That's probably not her fault. So overall, on the balance sheet, pretty good. This is Anatomy of a Scandal, and it comes out in the winter. I'm sure we'll talk about it again when I get a finished copy. And then the next one is Jenny Blackhurst, and it is How I Lost You. And this comes out in October. And what have we got here? Fans of psychological suspense authors Paula Hawkins, author of The Girl on the Train, Lisa Jewell, and Ruth Ware will be thrilled to read Jenny Blackhurst's unput-downable novel, How I Lost You. Jenny has crafted a deeply engaging and dark plot for readers to unravel as they study the difficulties of postpartum depression and the alternate realities that are planted in protagonist Susan Webster's mind. Jenny's ability to narrate in the first person creates a thrilling tale that has been described as utterly gripping and a brilliant debut by best-selling author Claire McIntosh. And then we have a little excerpt here. I have no memory of what happened, but I was told I killed my son. And you believe what your loved ones, your doctor and the police, tell you, don't you? My name is Emma Cartwright. 3 years ago, I was Susan Webster, and I murdered a 12-week-old young Dylan. I was sent to Oakdale Psychiatric Institute for my crime, and 4 weeks ago, I was released early on parole with a new identity, address, and a chance to rebuild my tattered life. This morning, I received an envelope addressed to Susan Webster. Inside, it was a photograph of a toddler called Dylan. Now I am questioning everything I believe, because if I have no memory of the event, how can I truly believe he's dead? If there was the smallest chance your son was alive, what would you do to get him back? Okay. Again, strengths and weaknesses. The weakness, of course, is that someone writing about the most traumatic episode of their life would not use a journalist cliched word like tattered life. And another big weakness is that this seems like it's going to be a thriller like so many thrillers that I read in 2017 and 2016. 2016, there had to be 40 of them that I read that appear not to understand what the internet is and that it exists now. And that if you're writing a novel in the present day, subways, suicide bombers, bottled water, and you don't also account for the internet, which, according to this, if the internet exists, then that excerpt can't exist. And if this excerpt exists, then it exists in a world before the internet. So, if you're writing a book that has all of those other modern elements, but you're just going to conveniently leave the internet out, it's especially bad in police procedurals. Oh my God. Oh my God. Where there are huge attendant mysteries on issues that could be solved in 5 minutes online. And it isn't that the writers don't know that. It's just... Anyway. So this comes out in October. Unfortunately, it sounds similar to The Girl on the Train and a bunch of other books that I've read recently, including a little bit Anatomy of a Scandal, and also a little bit of The Right Side. It sounds a little bit similar to them in one particular way that I'm not 100% comfortable with, which is, yes, you can have a female protagonist. Yes, you can have a female main character who's got a spotlight on her the whole time. But the only way that's really going to be comfortable to your male readers is if she's as badly damaged as a drop box of mangoes. She has to be a blackout alcoholic. She has to be an amnesiac mental patient. She has to be scarred mentally and physically so that she doubts herself at every turn. I realize I'm being a little harsh because, of course, you need something like that to create a redemption arc. Anyway, but I don't know. Something in it seems pandering. You don't get that with the equivalent, to that extent, you don't get it with the equivalent thrillers starring male characters. They're usually helping maimed people rather than being maimed themselves. But I will give all of these things a try. This has been an extremely heavy fiction thing. And then we end with a box. No idea what this could be. What is this? Oh. Okay. All right. This isn't real. This isn't. I mean, it is real. Obviously, it's physical, but this is Reader's Digest, and this is the kind of print volume. It has excerpts from Stephanie Pintoff, Giovanni Fletcher, Laura McHugh, Louise Miller. From their novels, from their it has long excerpts from their latest novels, and I swear I honestly did not think that Reader's Digest still made these books. You see them at used bookstores all the time in yard sales, but I honestly didn't think they made them anymore. And much less that they were so nice. That's kind of pretty. And this, I did not request this, of course, because these are not for sale. This has to be a byproduct of the fact that I subscribe to Reader's Digest now. Yes. Okay. I also sent a crossword puzzle book. So oh, that's weird. I didn't know they made these books, and I didn't know that I was in line to get one just by subscribing. I subscribed. I think I've mentioned on this channel before. I let my subscriptions to all of my normal magazines die. I let them all die, except for National Geographic. All of the stuff that I was reading, all of the magazines that I was reading, the New Republic, the New Statesman, the Weekly Standard, the New Yorker. The New Yorker actually called me on the phone. Somebody from their subscription department, they apparently have a rule in their subscription department that if a subscriber who's been with the magazine for more than 50 years allows the subscription to lapse, they try to call. They try to call or email and find out what the reason is. But the New Republic, the Harper's, Atlantic, I let all of those go because I don't want to read about Donald Trump. I don't want to do it. Even though they have the finest book coverage in the world, I don't want to even page past. Have we underestimated him? The nature of the Trump doctrine, lunatic in chief. I don't want to even page past stuff like that to get to the book reviews. I went through, while the subscriptions were running out, I went through it. The horrible feeling, especially if you're a Boston Irish Catholic, you get a magazine in the mail that you've paid for a subscription for, and you thumb back to the book review section, and then you tear off the front part and just keep the background, throw the front part away, without even looking at it. As Miss Sainted Ma would have said, you're not made of money, you know. So I let that go, and when I let those go, I realized I wasn't getting any magazines in the mail, and I like getting magazines in the mail. I think magazine subscriptions are one of the best uses you can put your money to. And so I went on subscribing spree. And it was a lot of fun. I subscribed to Reader's Digest. I subscribed to Better Homes and Gardens. I subscribed to Coastal Living, Architectural Digest, which is great, absolutely fantastic. I subscribed to Condé Nast Traveler, to Travel and Leisure, a whole bunch of travel magazines. I subscribed to Analog, Asimov Science Fiction and Fantasy, 3 digest SFF periodicals that come out regularly and that are jam-packed with material. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. They're the best, because you would put one of those in your bag and you have reading material for days that you paid, when you factor it all out, very little for. And you also, when you're done reading those, when you're done with your reading material for days, you have authors to watch for the rest of time. You read, like, for instance, I just read the latest science fiction fantasy. It had, I think, 10 full-length stories in the table of contents. Out of those 10, 2 jumped out like lightning in a bottle. All of them were very good. They obviously have a good editorial team, but 2 of them were incredible. Just incredible. Whole novels jammed into 25 pages. I immediately made a mental note of those authors, because I want to follow their short stories. I also want to know what else they do, and that explains this. Is that I'm now in Reader's Digest good graces. That's wonderful. And I actually, let's see here: The City Baker's Guide to Country Living, Hostage Taker, Billy and Me, and Arrowwood. The only one of those that I even got in the mail was Arrowwood, and I haven't read any of them. So this will actually serve a purpose for me. This will serve, I imagine, what it was originally intended. Its purpose was originally intended to be, which was, if you give it to somebody who isn't sure whether or not they might want to read any of these books, you can give them a gigantic sample of each one, so they'll know. That's God bless Reader's Digest. All right, so there we go. So it's all fiction. It's unbelievable. So with Reader's Digest volume, which you can't find in your bookstore, we have How I Lost You. We have Anatomy of a Scandal. We have The Right Side. The Necklace by Claire McMillan. Bed-Stuy is Burning. And Perilous Prophecy, a fantasy novel. So there you go. All made up stories. And this did obviously, as you can tell, this did cheer me up. So I thank you for that, and I'll be back soon. Thank you, BookTube.